Now we are live. I think so. Yep. Hey, this is Federal Prison Talk. My name is Sean. If you haven't seen this show before, we don't just talk about federal prison. We don't just talk about state prison or jails or anything like that. We also talk about changing lives going forward. And yes, we do talk about prison, but other things too. Anyways, speaking of prison, see how I tied that all in? I want you to meet Bonnie, who I've gotten to know and served some time in New Mexico State Prison. But today she's turned it all around. Today she's trying to not only change her life and go forward, she's trying to help others. And that's my introduction to Bonnie. She also, if you got problems getting back into life after prison or jail, or just trying to make a life, Bonnie can help you. And that's what she's all about today. But maybe, Bonnie, introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, and we can start wherever you want, in the beginning or the end. It's up to you.
Okay, well, I'm Bonnie. I'm here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Sean, I want to thank you, first of all, for letting me do this podcast with you. I know you are set up as federal prison, so I'm thankful to be here. Have a lot to say. I'm sure you might have to stop me at some point, but I am hopeful that anybody might be able to get anything from something I have to say today. That's my goal in life, to help others and give back, and that helps me to survive. Let's see.
You want to start from the beginning, maybe before you went to prison? And
let's when I was 4 years old. How about that?
Okay. We won't talk about the first years.
Yeah,
maybe like, you were living a normal life. All of a sudden you saw a bank, you decided to rob it, and you went to prison. I don't, just.
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to rob a bank. I did my crime kind of under, a little differently. But
hey, Eric, I just want to say hi to Eric and Cemetery Adventures out there. Thanks for joining in, guys. And ask questions anytime you want, okay?
So yeah, I at the age of 4, just real quick, my dad died. My mom remarried 3 times after that, and didn't have a lot of direction per se. So when I was 20, I joined the Army and took off, left Michigan, where I grew up at, and ended up in Germany, met my kid's father, and that's how I ended up here in New Mexico. We both got out of the service about the same time, and I arrived here. So got married, had 4 kids over quite a long span of probably 12 years. And for 15 years, lived kind of a normal life. In the service, drank a lot of alcohol, like most of the people in the service do. And
sure.
It was kind of the go-to. Well, for me it was anyway. But during the years of my married life, was church going on the, PTA, and I think I was on the board at my daughter's charter school.
Sounds all American to me. How the hell did you end up in prison?
Well, I had my own business, and then when I got divorced, I had no child support, and with 4 kids, and the economy crashed, and started working for a company, was struggling, asked for child support, didn't get it, and I did embezzle, and so went to prison.
Before you went to prison, I mean, can you talk about maybe how you got caught? Did you get locked up while you were fighting your case? Did they let you out on bail? Were you scared? All that kind of stuff?
It was interesting. I had a near-death experience. I lost a lot of my intestines, my right colon, and I had a come-to-Jesus moment at that point and thought, during that time that I was a week in the hospital, at the VA hospital, and I was terrified, thinking somebody's going to get into the bookkeeping there and find what I was doing, and tried to get back out and clean up the books. And I stopped doing what I was doing and actually got another job and left that company. After I left the company, they were audited, and what I had done was found after I left during an audit. And so, at the time that I was arrested, it was in 2014, and it took 3 years to actually, before I went and sentenced. But that was 9 years ago, and I pretty much have not been living for 9 years, truthfully. It's hard to go back out. A lot of people said, you should leave New Mexico, you should, go somewhere else. But my adult children live here, so I'm not going to, leave this state.
Told you, why did they tell you that you should leave?
The company that I embezzled, they pretty much run the city, so they're connected to everybody here. And when I say that, I mean that literally. It's no joke. So,
This is not a conspiracy theory. This stuff really exists.
It does, and I'm probably not going to pop off more on that because
we don't want
not going to say too much more about that. So that was hard. That was really hard. I believe that was, I tried to get jobs during the 2014 and 2017 when I was sentenced. And it was, as you know, prior, after, it's hard to work. So I did go to Sedona, Arizona, and worked in Sedona during those 3 years. And I would come back taking trains on the weekends to be with my kids, work in Sedona during the week, just to be able to work prior to being sentenced. Because I have a great work ethic. It just was difficult to provide for 4 kids with no child support on my own. And my alcohol abuse was extreme during that time because I had a huge amount of guilt. So the more that I sold, the more that I drank, the more that I drank, the more that it was just like a continual hamster wheel, and I was the hamster. And my head was not okay with it. Like, I knew what I was doing was wrong, and it just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. And yeah, so
I think most of us who've got caught or went to jail or prison, we knew what we were doing was wrong, yet we still did it. We justified it, or said, oh, they owe us, or I'm not really stealing from them, or I'm not really hurting someone. Somebody else was going to do it. Why not me? All those kind of reasonings, right?
I knew it had happened, that I was being caught, that it had not been addressed. And the owner of the business met me at a restaurant. Little did I know he was wired up. I mean, logically I probably knew, but I didn't. Honestly, I'm an insane open book person. So he was trying to circle the whole situation. And I finally just said to him, let's just stop the circling. Let's just have the conversation. And I kind of just said to him, can you not arrest me in front of my youngest child? And I said, let's just cut to the chase. I know And so I was not in denial about what I did. I was very, I took the bullet. It's one thing that I will do is I admit what I have done. I'm not proud of it.
A lot of people won't do that. There's people they in prison when I was in there, they're all innocent. I was one of the few guilty people in there. A lot of people, they never take the accountability, never accept that they did something wrong.
You know what? I had to, because it's the only way I could survive. I was like, you know what? And when I went to prison, when I was sentenced, I was like, okay.
How long did you get? How long was the sentence?
My sentence was 9 years, all suspended but 20 months. And by the time I started and finished, it was 10 months that I did time. And I went into prison very strange because I had spiraled, and I was damaging my children. My children were damaged. In between the 3 years, from 2014 to 2017, when I talk about my alcohol spiraling out of control, I did a suicide attempt. My oldest son had to drive me to the VA. I was in Ward 7, which is your mental ward. I was damaging my kids. I was damaging my family. I take full responsibility and accountability for what I've done. And I'll tell you, I've been on the ground. I've been sobbing. I've had a lot of deep, dark depression, mental health issues, and I own every last one of them. I took a lot of accountability, and the people that I took money from will never know that. I'm not allowed to have any communication with them, but it's not okay what I did. And when I got in there, I actually thanked God for putting me in prison because I needed to be held accountable. And I had 3 things. I wrote a lot of things on paper when I went in. I was like, I'm going to, pray every day. I'm going to try to better myself every day, and I'm going to try and help other people every day, some way, shape, or form. And I needed to do that in order to heal. And that was
Can I ask what level of prison you went to? And I know it was in New Mexico, and I don't know how many levels they have for the women's prison. Can you maybe talk about that?
so I'm not completely. I think it was like level 1, level 2. That was I ended up at Springer. You go through your transition of going to the jail, and then I was there for quite a while, longer than normal, before I was sent like 5 weeks, and then went to Grants Women's Prison, which is where the higher crime people stay. And that's where they decide where you're going to go. Now, this was interesting. So I've been on mental, what do I want to say, depression medication, anxiety medication, as long as I can remember. I've had, it's in my family tree. And thank you. Yeah. So when I got there, I was on Zoloft. You go in, and I'm sure you realize you get there and your medication doesn't come your way right away. It takes a few weeks before you get your medication. So you're cold turkey off of that, which
Sure.
Everybody, people who have substance abuse problems are going through withdrawals from that. There's a whole withdrawal from your mental health medication as well. And
I know that by personal. I know that. Yeah.
I don't think people in society realize to this extent if they're not taking those medications. And I had all my records. I knew when I was going. I knew the day I was being sentenced. So everything was prepared and being sent. But, we're not real people. So it doesn't really matter to everybody out there. But there's and that probably went through 3 or 4 of those withdrawals. And I was told at Western, and I think there's a lot of little games that maybe correctional officers and that they play with you just to mess with you.
No, not them. They're such.
It's really possible. So I was told that I was not allowed to go to the level 1, level 2 if I was on my mental health medication.
I've actually heard that because of you could sell your drugs. That they're worried about you bringing contraband in, or
so
I don't think they really care about your mental health.
So I went off of them, of course, another really tough time, just so I could go to the level 1, level 2, because, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I was scared. I've not been around, a lot of things in my life. I've not seen fights, and I saw extreme fights that to this day are, mess with my head. And for whatever reason, I walked into a lot of fights. Wherever I was, those fights happened right in front of me. And,
So there's fights in women's prison. Someone I've talked to some women, they say we're not like the men's prisons. We don't have the gangs and all that, but they do tell me the fights are usually amongst each other over jealousy of another woman. Is that kind of true? Or
I mean, for sure, jealousy, but it could also just be just because people don't like each other, or just, even a TV program or something was just said wrong. And, we were in open bay pods, and there was overcrowding when I was there. So I think there was maybe supposed to be 40 people in these pods, and there was at least 80 to 100. Ooh. And supposedly there's supposed to be a correctional officer in there. There wasn't.
No.
No. And, yeah. And like the train wreck or a car accident that you're not supposed to watch, but you look and you look and you look. And so, I watched, so I probably never should have, but those are in my head, and they're going to be in my head till I'm no longer on this earth. And so my kids, I've got still a couple in the house, but, that pounding or whatever that, they smack something, that's never going to be okay with me. And it happens to this day.
Yeah.
A door shut.
You know what still drives me like I get is when I hear this. You remember that sound?
Yeah, but we didn't really have a lot of that because we had just a door opening to a big, huge, wide open,
Oh, right. So they make a big entrance into the room. Yeah. Ladies, stand up for count, kind of thing.
Yeah. So going to eat in the cafeteria, and every day somebody else has got a black eye. And so, but yeah.
So I've done a few shows with some other ladies that have done prison time, and I'll plug their channels up. There's Fed Phoenix. Check out her channel, and Angie Talks Prison. These are ladies I came on my show before they went to prison. Now they're out and they have their own prison channels. But we did a special show about women getting raped in prison and getting, fondled and getting, just treated like, treated really bad by the male guards, even by the women guards, not caring, looking the other way. That's in the federal prison system. What about the state prison system? Is that still is that going on there too?
So when I got there was some weird stuff that had gone on, and I was not part of it, but evidently they'd taken a lot of the females back from Springer to Grants. And this is what I was told. I was not there when this supposedly happened, so I'm not sure. But, drugs go in body cavities, right? My kids were coming a lot to visit me. They came probably every other weekend, a 3-hour drive each way. And I have never done drugs. It's not part of my world. It just wasn't. Alcohol was my drug of choice. So outside of the prison, evidently drops happened, right?
Right.
So one day, my kids had just visited. I come back. I'm going to go to the bathroom, washing my hands, and somebody comes up and they're like, so is it true people have been lining up outside to see you? And I'm like, for what? Your body, right? I'm like, yeah. So somehow somebody thought that my kids had done a drop. First of all, that's just not the world. And strangely enough, just toss this out there, my ex-husband's a cop. So
wow. Now, was he your ex-husband while you were in prison? Or, had you divorced before prison or after hearing?
We divorced in 2006. I didn't go to prison until 2017. So, but that just wasn't our world. So I wasn't doing drugs. So, but they thought that they were coming in. So right as I got to that pod, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before, I was told by the girl in the bunk bed next to me that people thought that some of these women in there had drugs in their body cavities, and they were dragging them into the showers and basically searching their body cavities and beating them up. So, to hear that they thought that I had a drop, just let me say I was a little terrified, to say the least. But
Sure.
Luckily, some of the girls had kind of, I bonded with a few of them, and they took me under their wing and said she doesn't have anything. So, but I can definitely say I was shook for a few hours that day. Not gonna lie, but I had one of the things that I think helped me. I've drawn since I was really young, and when I was in Grants, the transition between Grants and Springer, I met somebody who had lost their child. It was around Easter. I had been really upset missing my kids on Easter Day, and the girl next to me was starting to cry really hard, and evidently her child had been killed while she was in prison. So I thought, okay, well, suck it up, Bonnie. It's not so bad. You don't lose your kid. So I drew, on. Did you guys have the handkerchiefs, the paños, where people drew on the paños?
Handkerchiefs?
Yeah, people would draw on a handkerchief. You'd soak it in water with sugar, and then you'd flatten it out, and it would harden. And then you would draw with a pencil on it. And so I would sketch from a photo.
Oh.
And so I would draw for anybody who lost a child. I would just do that. But that was kind of also my trade in there, that I would draw pictures so I could get commissary.
I was in the feds, and they have arts and crafts rooms, and you can order stuff from outside. So I guess, yeah. But I have been to jails, and I remember things like that in the jails. And
Yeah, I did murals too on the prison walls. So my grandpa used to say, yeah, my grandpa was always like, "Oh, you're going to be a great artist someday." And he passed away a lot of years ago, and I'm thinking, oh, he would have been real happy about me doing those murals in prison.
We need the Wingsworks building we have there on Central Avenue.
Yeah.
We have a sign up, but the glass, I don't know if you've been there yet, but the glass, everybody else has a sign on their glass. We have nothing. So we could really use you to paint on that window.
Okay. That'll be better than the prison walls.
And I'm sure we let you do what you want. So
something. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of fights out there.
Yeah. So that was. I mean, is that a? You said that were you making any money off that for your to buy for commissary and things like that, or that was your hustle, right? I guess while you were in there.
It was. I charged $20, and usually I didn't get burned. There's, but then, one time I ended up with a girl's, picture of herself that she was going to give to her girlfriend, and then she decided not to pay me. So that,
What did you do? What did you do? I mean,
well,
how'd you collect?
It was interesting because I usually didn't, I usually stayed pretty low key and didn't do anything, but I was mad about that. And I really wasn't okay with it. And this was a really larger woman and so I
don't mean to interrupt, but if you let somebody like that get away with it in prison, the next one thinks they can, and the next, you have to, right? Yeah.
I actually talked a lot of shit about her, believe it or not, and I was really mad about it. And I talked a lot of shit about her for a long time, and she eventually, interesting enough, towards the end, before she left, there was a situation where the girls, obviously drugs are coming in the prison. I know that's really shocking to hear, right?
Yeah.
So I had a bunk bed in pod 8 that was getting cold. So everybody's who's doing drugs there, they, cold is not bothering them because they're warm. So they kept opening the doors, and my bunk bed was right by the door. And so this girl who we had, I was not happy with her, and she was not paying me for the photo of herself that she was going to give to a girlfriend, and they broke up, and she decided she didn't want the photo. So for some reason, she decided to I kept going and shutting the door. Well, these girls started kind of threatening me that they were calling me an old lady, because I am an old lady, much older than a lot of the other people in there. And they were threatening to beat me up. And so she kept shutting it for me, which was kind of cool. So we kind of hit this really great level. So after she did it probably 10 times for me, kind of almost protecting me, I went and said, you know what, I really, really appreciate, you've been doing that for me. And I just went and gave her the photo or the pictures I drew for her. So, but that actually was after probably 6 months. So, but yeah, I wasn't looking to get harmed in there. And yeah.
Well, you got to survive. You got to do what you got to do. I know men's prisons are different than women's prisons, and certain things like in a penitentiary, which I've never been to, but I hear that's you gotta in certain things. You look at a person wrong. If you don't look at a person, they can shank you. You look at them the right. It's all just sometimes you can get killed by looking at a person or not looking at a person.
Yeah, and so I also did. I would help do makeup on the people who were on the other side of the fight, so that they were not necessarily the one who began the fight. So I would go and help especially if they were my friend, I would fix their face so that they wouldn't end up going to SAG.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that kind of stuff.
Cemetery says, I'm so gel. I wish I could draw. Is your eye color real? So matches your shirt.
Real all day.
No fake. Question?
No fake. No fake here.
Hey, I'm wondering, in state prisons, I'm told you can have your own TV, but since you're an open dorm and all that, could you guys have your own TV?
There were no TVs. Nobody had their own TV. So in there, we're with 80 people, right? And that was when I talk about arguments and that kind of stuff. A lot of it was over. We had one TV in the corner, and you kind of just went with whoever was really the most. What do you call it? Ran the show.
Yeah, shot caller, something like that.
Well, you just go with the ones that are gonna run.
Right.
There's people in there that get in line in front of you, and you've been there for a couple hours.
Yeah.
and everybody gets in line. You know, yeah.
How about tablets? Did you guys have the tablets in there?
No, nothing
No.
like that. Mm-mm. I'm
Wow.
seeing them now, like, you know, I'll go and watch like 60 Days In or something, and you know, it's totally different than when I was in. I was actually accused of being part of 60 Days In. Now I'm in prison, right?
Yeah.
The show 60 Days In is in a jail. There's, you know, and there's
It's a big difference. Yeah.
so, but
So they thought that there's 60 days in prison now, and you're season 1 or something, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Because
But
you don't look because you didn't look the part, didn't act the part. See, a lot of people don't realize who actually goes to prison. They have an idea of what a felon looks like, and you know, I don't look like I've been to prison. Most people can't guess unless I tell them you don't look like you've been to prison. But there were so many people that look like me in prison, and you know, I haven't been in the women's prison, but I meet them now when they come out. I can't tell, and everybody's this society's vision of what they think a felon looks like is wrong.
Here's the real facts of the world in prison, and people who are actually caught and who go in. You know, there's good people, and there's good people who commit crimes that are caught, and there's good people who committed crimes out there and they haven't been caught. And you know, we've got bad people who committed crimes that are caught. There's bad people out there who haven't been caught, and there's the evil people out there that are in prison. And there's the evil, and it's the game. It's the game who everybody's not everybody, but there's a lot of play here in this situation, and then there's a lot of judgment, and there's a lot of people who walk away from you, and yeah. But I want to talk about something too with you of
we can move on. It's just really all whatever you want to talk about, unless somebody asks you a question or something. But yeah.
I want to talk about people getting out and recidivism and the ability to get a job, and the world right now, and what they think of people when they get out, and the ability to go out there and get a job or
you need to be nice, Mr. Cemetery, to my guest, okay?
Yeah, but you get out and you're not able to get a job. You get out and you've got this felon tag on your back, and society says they want recidivism. They don't want to see us turning around and going back in. The judgment on recommitting crimes, and a lot of the reason why they're not always, but a big part of recommitting crimes and why people end up back in there. And I think I told you, and I mentioned that I started a how to start your own business class when I was in Springer, and I taught over 275 inmates how to start a business. And I did that.
Sometimes that's the only way somebody with a criminal history can actually find employment, is to start their own,
Giving people a chance to have a chance to make it again. Because when you have a background check instantly and you're not able to get a job, if you go out and you start a business, people don't know your background immediately, and they're not able to instantly judge you and tell you can't work there. Being able to build some self-esteem again so that you feel good about yourself, so you can go out and live again and actually take a breath and not go back to the same cycle. I had been in accounting for 30 years. I worked with people starting businesses. It was in my head. So the prison gave me a chance to get a typewriter and put this class together. And, before I knew it, all these women had a chance to hear a message and hear, having a chance to do something with their lives. This morning I was going to go meet some people at Wings, and I was trying to get ready when I was an hour late because my brain started churning and thinking about you and businesses having that extra money and the credit they can get if they hire a felon and give them a second chance. But my thoughts started spinning, and I was grabbing my highlighter markers because I write in color all the time. But, all these employers out there are looking for people to work. And after COVID, a lot of younger people didn't want to work anymore. And all these employers were like, we can't get people to work. Well, we're calling ourselves returning citizens who want to have another chance to go out and get a job. And so my brain does this, it goes crazy because I am a little crazy, me and my kids. I with one of my children, have a song called "All the Best People Are Crazy," and I've got mental health issues, so that's like the best thing I can think of sometimes. But I want to like take this new thought process to these employers out there who want people to work, and to the world who says they want, recidivism. Well, if you're not going to give us a freaking chance to have the ability to do this, I want to like pound the pavement and hit doors and be like, look, you need people to work, and you can't get the youth to do it. And we have people coming out of their cells, and they've done their time. They did their time.
I know they paid their debt to society, like me, and I've forgiven myself. You don't know me, and you won't forgive me.
And so here you need somebody to work, and we're gonna change. Let's change the cycle. Like, let's do it for real. Then how are we gonna do it if society doesn't change that hamster wheel and flip it? And so this morning I just sat there on paper writing all this down, and went to Wings, and I spoke to Max and said, there's got to be something somehow that this gets changed, especially when everybody needs workers. Businesses are shutting down because they can't get people to come in and work, yet people that want to work.
But it's also got to be a living wage, because to work for Taco Bell or McDonald's and try to have an apartment and all that, that's really not enough. It's got to be a living wage. Can I afford an apartment and save up and get a car, and can I make it in the world? And in a lot of states and cities and stuff, minimum wage is not going to cut it. And so if you really want to stop the recidivism rate and hire people with criminal background, returning citizens, you need to pay a little bit more than that minimum wage. They'll let us. I'd say this. We can shine their shoes. I can go fix your roof, your toilet, make your sandwich. You know what I mean? Get your coffee at Starbucks and stuff. But you won't let me have a professional job. You know what I mean? You won't let me teach high school when they're hurting for teachers in high schools, especially in the cities. And the only people that can probably reach kids like that are people that been to prison and have turned their lives around. Those kids will listen to somebody like that, but they won't let me. They won't let a felon teach history or English. You could come, for an hour, and they'll have a little function and let you talk to the kids, but they won't let you teach English every day. And how many people I know that have the degree, they've been to college, they could teach English and history and all that, and nobody else wants the job, right? And everybody's scared to go. But some of us felons, we'd be the perfect person to fit that need for those teachers. But you know what I mean? So
I was willing to do anything, and it took a minute to be able to do that anything, because initially I wasn't able to work in the cash field. But I waitressed at 53 5 years ago. Like, I was like, I'm not like, I would do anything just to be able to bring that income in, So, yeah.
Hey, John, he just had a plea hearing on my way to sentencing in February. Yeah. A lot of people watch my show. They're out on pretrial, and now the states are doing that. They have the no cash bail thing, so you get to go home or wait to go to prison, and you're on this probation or parole or pretrial, and it's like, I thought I was innocent until proven guilty. No.
Good luck, John. Oh man.
Cemetery, are you have you been to prison or jail? Because that's good money. I want to know if you're a returning citizen, as we like to say. And
what does he do?
I don't know. He said he makes $27.85 an hour, though. Oh, YouTube Streets. These guys are our younger generation. These guys have a channel, and these guys are very intelligent. If you ever get a chance to watch their show, they do live podcasts. And a lot of these guys have been in jail or prison, and they're turning around, and they're very smart. They give me hope for the next generation.
There's a lot of stuff where people can have like a YouTube business, and yeah. I hired one of the girls I did time with to come into my home and do some construction work, hire each other.
Yeah. There's this stigma, and like I told you, I've been finding it's harder for a woman with a criminal background than a man to get hired. For some reason, there's a trust issue. You know, it's something new. It's a new statistic. It's a new awakening. I've been, at least here in New Mexico, and I think when I'm from California, and I kind of heard some of that too. They'll give the man a chance, but they won't get a woman who's been to prison. Oh, no. We won't have that kind of attitude. And you know, where does that come from?
That is kind of weird. Well, yeah.
And then you have the companies that don't want to be on anybody's list, and that I'd like to change. Some people actually are proud that everybody knows they hire convicted felons. There are some that it's starting to change, but we got a long way to go.
And it needs to change. Like I said, with with people saying they need to hire people, and then,
Yeah, I mean, would you let you said, do you have children? I can't remember.
4,
yeah, of course, yeah. So would you let your children go to a high school where there's felons that are teachers?
Yeah.
If
they didn't have a background of child molestation.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, definitely that. Now, before you went to prison, how did you feel about that?
I mean, you know what? I actually don't have a big judgment of other people, and I've always been that way. I'm very just, but, I protect my children, you know what I'm saying, from letting anything happen to them in the safety of, what I just discussed.
Yeah.
Pedophiles, that type of thing.
John says he lucked out because at his plea hearing, he was able to give the judge some exceptional circumstances in order to avoid being detained until February. Some people, they're locked up the whole time while they're going to court back and forth and waiting to get sentenced, and really hard to fight a case when did you guys have a law library at your prison? Do you remember?
I never ever saw one. We had like a library that just had regular books. There was nothing.
Yeah, we had an electronic library, and everything was still 10 years old, and it was really it was like trying to use Atari video game compared to today's. It had nothing on it really, but they're supposed to have all that for people.
I know. I can remember, and then writings where you write in for getting information and never getting anything back. Trying to make phone calls for it just was, yeah.
Yeah. And there's the whole food issue, that unfit for human consumption food that they feed in most jails and prisons. And I don't know why. It's out there, the information, and nobody changes. Nobody cares.
The nutrition there is no nutrition. And absolutely. And so going back to mental health, a lot of mental health is affected by nutrition. And that alone, you're in there with a lot of people with mental health issues, and which affect crime statistics. So at least 30% alone on one mental health disorder, people are in prison today, and there's nothing being done on that end.
Let me ask you this. How hard is it for someone with, out of prison or jail to start their own business? And how much money would it cost? And how do they go? But since, this is what you're doing right now, would you take, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and ask you for your help, are you willing to, maybe they could leave a comment in here and I can send it to you or something?
Absolutely. I mean, I put a whole class together in prison, and that was from my head because I've done it for 30 years. So, I mean, just the business license alone is only $35 here in New Mexico. But,
So I had to go on a guy on my show last week. He did 7 years in prison. He cut hair in prison. He wants to have his own barber shop. He has no money to do it. How hard would it be for him to get his, start his own business? And can you get there's rumors that you can get these grants, $50,000 small business loans and all this stuff. Is there any truth to that?
Well, him getting to the point of having his own shop, there's steps. Those things aren't going to happen overnight. So there's steps, he's going to have to get his license and go through the process of all of that.
That's what he talked about. First thing you want to do is get his license, but he doesn't know how.
Well, all of that is a process, which right now at Wings, I spoke with Max, and we're going to set up a business incubator there, which is great. So where I'm going to start teaching the classes on how to start your own business. There's in New Mexico, there's food, South Valley Economic Development Center that has an incubator where you can use their commercial kitchen. And so one of the things I taught my kids is find something you love. So you've got this guy who is really thinking, I love this, I can do this for myself. And so I know somebody who came out of prison and she took the classes to start doing, hair, and she's got herself where she rents a space. So now they have places where you can rent the space and you're working for yourself, and you start to get customers, and then you build on that, and that pays your rent. And I literally typed everything up where how it shows you can write off all your expenses and you only pay taxes on your net income. I have a whole guide. And maybe, I don't know, at some point we can set it up on your page, but I want to get a podcast with you too, so that people can access this stuff. These are some of the goals I wanted to do to give back, so that people have a chance to, when I start to help people, for me, it heals me, and it's giving back, and it's giving people a chance that they don't go back in. And nobody will know, what they did. All those steps, talking about him getting a license, he can go start to begin his path in that direction. There are small business loans, and they're through some of the economic development centers in his state or his county or wherever he lives, and they can take him through those guidelines of everything he needs to do.
Right.
You just have to contact your local economic development center, and all that information is there, and they have access to small loans. Another thing that I'm doing here locally that me and Max are going to start in the incubator is helping people rebuild their credit. When I got out, my credit was like in the 400s. I literally went through steps and rebuilt my credit, which was crazy. I didn't think I'd ever rebuild my credit. My credit's better than it's ever been. And I just got off probation at the end of December. So, and I embezzled, and my credit's like 750.
Wow.
And all those steps, I researched them, and I'm going to put it together and teach people how to do it.
Okay. And I know there's a lot of people that need that. Real quick, I just want to answer, John, if you call me the next day or two, it's called a designation request letter, and I can email it to you. You send it to the judge and to Grand Prairie, Texas, where the feds do. And there's a letter, and good chance that you'll get to go where you want. And I'm sorry to interrupt. He had a serious question.
That's totally fine. I'm fine. But there's these things that they get caught up in it, because I definitely was for years like, oh, my credit's bad, and then you don't know what to do. And you think you've got to go out and pay somebody. So what I want to do with our returning citizens is set it up to help everybody and not make it such a vicious thing to figure out how to do it. Make little babies, just set up the steps where people can understand how to do them. And it's really not that difficult. But when we overthink it, then we think it's kind of like when you're in depression and you can't get out of bed because you're overwhelmed with the big balloon of things. And so you just stay in bed, and that's what I've done for a lot of years since I've been out. But if you set up those little bullets and you go, okay, if I do this today, then I'll do this tomorrow, just little 15-minute segments, all of a sudden you've got the steps to actually make something happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I have for people also with, if you're going to start a business. One little goal, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes here, so that you're not overwhelmed with, oh, I can't do it. But if you do 15 minutes here, 15 minutes here, people get, and I've done it because I've had so much depression in my life. And if you can finally just get out of bed, you're like, okay, break it down into little tiny things, then you can make it happen.
Yeah, that's probably the way. For me, I had to take little steps too. I want it all by next Tuesday. You're right. But, realistic.
Well, and what happens is what happens for me, because I was in bed for like 3 years from serious depression, I'm so overwhelmed because there's so much going on that I just never get out of bed. And if you just
Michael wants to know how to join your program.
You are going to help me make my podcast, and then I'm going to put all the things on there so that people can just take those little steps, because it really is little steps. People used to think, oh my gosh, how do you make all those things happen? And really it's just taking one big goal and then just breaking it down into tiny ones. Because I've dealt with depression my whole life, but I've been able to really make really big things happen. I told you I had this really big company at one point that was an Oscar and Grammy and MTV gift bags. And then I also embezzled and went to prison. So I've had really great things and I've had really shitty things.
Now, can you help people in any state, any part of the country, or do they have to be here in Albuquerque?
Everybody has to drive here, pull up out in the lawn. No, they can be anywhere.
Okay. Because that's good to know. That's good to know, because I don't know where some of these people live and stuff. So,
I mean, everything's in the cloud. Everything's, yeah. So
that's good to know. Do you have a website yet, or anything that you can put out there for people? Or?
But I need to, yeah. But I'm pretty much a spaz, if you haven't noticed. So we're gonna get it going really quick.
Yeah, no, I get. But I want to tell you I think the best idea I ever heard, because I know a guy who did this. He put up a bulletin in a high school. He got somebody to put it up there, and $50. Those high school kids, even junior high, what's it called, middle school now. They'll build you a website for $50, and it's probably the best one you've ever seen, because they're born knowing how to do that now.
Right.
Or if you go hire somebody for $3,000, you get a kid to do it. He'll have it done in 2 hours, and
That's what I want to do. I just want to set it up, and maybe I can get it set up, Sean, and then I can come back on and be like, here it is. And I want to make it really, really user friendly so that it doesn't overwhelm people. When people are in depression, when people are overwhelmed, I don't want to make it difficult. I want to make it so that it's easy.
I know, I get it. You click on that website and it's just 1, 2, 3 easy. Just I get it. And the attention span now for a lot of people is so short. But
well, and you know what? I know that a lot of people are out there for money. I'm out because I have a lot of healing to still do. And the only way that I'm gonna survive the rest of my life is because I've helped other people. And I'm brutally, truthfully, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and John, there's different reasons why you self-surrender. It could be medical, it could be because there's a program there, you're close to family, or you need to be away from your family. There's lots of different reasons why a judge will allow that, and it's done all the time. And I'm going to say, if you request a designation, there's a 90% chance that it happens. Okay, unless you have certain conditions that they have to abide by. Would just call me in the next few days or something, and my number's underneath all my videos, and I'll tell you how to do it. It's basically, it's pretty easy. Yeah, he's talking about self-surrendering, and in the feds, I got the self-surrender. You get to pick where you want to go. It's almost like being a travel agent. You could just go on the website and pick which prison has which programs, and that one looks good. That's cold in the winter. I don't want to go there. But yeah, it's done all the time, and they'll let you. It was. I mean, it's almost mind-blowing, but yeah, you get to show up at the prison and turn yourself in. That's what a lot of us do that. If you're nonviolent, it's the strangest thing, but
Probably would have been a better way than going the way I went.
Yeah. But half the people in the feds, all the people in the lower levels, they turn themselves in, they self-surrender. But it's really plays tricks on the minds, Yeah. And if you get to the federal prison camps where I was at, they don't even have a fence. It's just a sign that says out of bounds. I mean, our warden said, I'll call you a cab if you want to escape. Nobody ever took him up on him, but I mean, I think he meant it, because he'll call the cab and then he calls the marshals right after that,
Wow.
But yeah, a prison with no fence. I mean, psychological torture.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk about other things that you've done since you've been out of prison, because I know you are you're inspiring now. You're eager. You want to help people. And there was something else that you were doing besides starting businesses, right?
When I got out, I went to the University of New Mexico college, and I did some seminars in the accounting fraud class. So when I was in there, I had goals. I had a lot of goals. I wanted to rebuild my credit. That was it,
the rebuild credit thing. That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
And then I also did the seminars in the accounting fraud class. I wanted to teach those people to not do what I did, because anybody, and people think, oh no, not me. I was married to a police officer. I was like, that would have never happened, right? But I shared my story, and I wanted to show them I was a little family, like, going to church and being on the PTA. And I showed them pictures of being in prison and stories about being in there and how it affected me and how it affected my children, and let them know, like, any of you can end up here. So did a couple seminars there until 2020 and the COVID hit. So
I just got a call from a guy today that he's got a job. He's been out a couple of years, but his credit's he said the last time he checked last week, 483, and he's trying to get an apartment, right? And I know this one place that you got to have at least a 500 credit score. How can he get his credit up?
Okay, so let me give you some tips. First of all, everybody's allowed to pull from the 3 different credit agencies. That's one of the first things that you do. You get you're allowed once a year for free to pull all of your credit report.
Is that when you go through like Credit Karma, karma.com?
No, you actually contact Experian. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. I can look at the bottom of my computer, but you are able to get those reports. They send them to you really pretty quickly. You have to go through these weird questions like, did you live on Long Lane? They're making sure your identity is correct.
Well, that's that verify ID thing. Yeah.
So the first thing you do is you get all 3 copies, print them out, have them in front of you. And the very first after that, the next step is you have them in front of you. And I want to say you send dispute letters to anything that's in dispute, or it's on your credit report. Okay. Now we're not doing fake sites. We're doing the actual 3 Experian. So this is something I need to type up, and this is just off the top of my head.
The TransUnion, Experian, and there's another one.
I have it underneath my credit report down here. I have a whole thing set up. But once you get them, you actually can dispute everything that's on your credit report, and you send it, and you want to get a what's the word? Sometimes my head doesn't work. A response from all of them, certified responses,
like a
from all of them.
or something.
Certified. You want them to respond to you that they've received it. And if they don't reply to you within X number of days, and I don't have this typed up yet because this is okay, but this is something I will type up. I don't know how many days, but I will. They have to respond to you within X number of days. And if they don't, legally, they have to drop that off of your credit report immediately. Okay.
So let me ask you about statute of limitations. I heard California, I've heard it's 4 years to get like a credit card off. I heard it's normally 7 years, but some states have different time. Is there a statute of limitations on
there is
debtors?
There is. Bad thing is I'm going to be sitting here telling you information that I don't know all the details on, because it's been years since I did this. But so all this stuff will drop off after so many years. So number one,
but they don't drop it off automatically, right? You have to ask them to drop it off. Is that what it is?
It drops off automatically, completely. So
really? Because I've done my credit report and it's got stuff on there from 15 years ago and they never dropped it off.
It will still be there, but it doesn't count against your credit score.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Medical doesn't count against your credit score. Okay.
I've heard that. That's true though, huh?
It is true.
The medical.
So if you have that on there, those are not things that there you go.
There's a question.
Bankruptcy hangs on your credit report for 7 to 10 years, depending on which one you filed. So just so you know, those will stay on longer.
But having filed bankruptcy, then they know that you don't owe anybody. Now, if it comes up where I have, all these people like, I might want to loan money I might want to give credit to the person with bankruptcy because now they don't owe anybody, right? Or is that how they think? I don't know.
No, the reality is bankruptcy stays on 7 to 10 years. It stays on longer. So.
But it also shows I have a clean slate now. I don't know anybody.
Okay.
Does that count at all?
The reality here, Mr. Sean, is we're trying to rebuild our credit score. All these questions are not part of the conversation. We're trying to rebuild our credit score.
I'm sorry.
And I'm not like a professional. This is just somebody off the street that we're trying to rebuild our credit score. Okay, so going back to this, we're going to pull all of our reports. So we have Experian. Do that again. Who did that for us? Experian.
TransUnion and Equifax.
Okay. And Equifax. Okay. You get all three of them. You compare them. They're all going to, funny enough, they'll be different, which is kind of crazy. And then you write these letters, certified mail, and you can dispute them all, or you can get certified mail. And then if they don't respond to you within the number of days, John, because I'm talking on here, you should find out the number of days for us. You can be part of our podcast. From there, any of the ones that are on there that you still owe money to that they responded, or to you, letting you know that it's still a solid debt, you can contact them and ask them to take pennies on the dollar. Usually it's like a third. So say you owe $1,000 on this credit card, they will take $300 and then they'll shut that debt down. And that's your next step. Then from there, you go get a secured credit card. Okay. Usually about $250. You put $250 on that credit card and you start using it and you start making payments. Pretty soon thereafter, if you've been doing that for a while, so your credit score is going to start to go up. From there, usually pretty soon within 6 months to a year, they'll give you a credit card for about $2,000. I rebuilt my credit from like 420 within probably 2 years. It went up to 750.
Wow.
So legit.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yes.
So I have a credit builder card, Chime credit builder card. You know that one is, and that's building my credit pretty good.
So it doesn't happen like tomorrow. And if your bankruptcy is still on there and you still have 4 or 5 years of your bankruptcy, but I still had during this time, just so you know, I still had my bankruptcy on there. My bankruptcy didn't drop off until March of 2023.
Wow.
And my credit score went up to 750.
There's another question for you there. Can you read that? See it?
Okay.
My wife died. She got me 8 credit cards. Is it okay to have multiple credit cards that you pay on time to build your credit? I mean, I'm thinking yes, if you can manage to pay them all, I guess. I don't know.
I believe so. One of the things that I have read about and have learned is that they look at the ratio of how much your income is to how much you have in outstanding in credit card debt. So funny enough, when I just got a brand new car, right? So I haven't had a brand new car in 17 years. So I got it in January with my great credit score, which is insane. And my credit even went up better when I had more debt. So funny enough,
as long as you're making the payments, I guess is what they look for.
Well, obviously you have to make your credit go down, but it was kind of interesting that they actually want you to have a little bit more debt because it shows that you're more responsible because you're making higher payments. So if I had a house in my name, which I have not been able to get because I embezzled, and they sent a 1099 into the IRS saying that was income that I stole. So then they taxed me. So us people who are embezzlers, we have layers of things. We don't just go to prison. We get another smack, and then we get another smack, and then we get another smack. So I'm not, because I have IRS debt that I'll never be able to get rid of. I very unlikely, because then they've got interest that is
Yeah,
exploding.
I owe $1.7 million to the government. Now that's before the interest. It's probably up to $3 million now with the interest. Who knows?
Well, let me just say, God bless you. I'm feeling pretty darn good right now about my IRS debt.
As long as I pay $100 a month, I'm good. They say so, but I don't know if I can buy a house. I don't. I
Yeah.
just don't know.
If you have IRS debt, you cannot get a house. And then they start coming after your passport and all sorts of crazy things. But
Well, Bonnie, it's been like an hour, and if you don't mind, maybe if you don't mind wrapping it up, but I want to give you a chance to, tell the world what you want to tell the world, and give some advice out there to anyone coming out of prison or family members that may have somebody getting out or somebody going in, like John, who has to still do his time. And I know you went to a women's prison, but maybe you can give them some advice. And this show will go on in reruns now. YouTube owns this rights, so you could help somebody 12 years from now in the future, or 28 years from now, somebody sees this show, and you never know, you could save their life.
well, the saving the life thing is huge, because literally, I've had a lot of ups and downs since I've been out, and a lot of, sadly, a lot of suicidal thoughts. So today I'm really, quite honestly, linking up with Wings, which is a group here in Mexico that works with returning citizens, people who have come out and are trying to rebuild their lives. This is something that is helping me. So any of you getting out and are going through rough times, I've been through some pretty rough ones, and I'm really thankful that I hung on and I'm still here, and I can help.
This is actually airing on the Wings for Life YouTube channel right now as well.
Yay. So I'm really thankful. I'm thankful today that I'm linked to you guys, and that hopefully I help somebody in any way, shape, or form. And that's what I'm going to do, hopefully, till I'm no longer on this planet. And anybody listening to this who's not a returning citizen, hire some of us, because a lot of us really,
thank you,
really want to work and really want to change our lives. Then quit your judging if you're judging, because you could be here too.
Yeah. And especially, give us a chance, hire us. Look, a lot of us, we get out, we're on probation, we have to find a job. They could send us back. Some of us, we don't find a job, but we'll show up on time, and we're getting drug tested, so we're clean, we're sober, you want to hire us, and we're eager to show up, and and you won't be sorry. And like I said, that the tax credit, you can get up to $9,600 back over the next 2 years. For every dollar you spend on us, the government will give you 25 cents back. And call me, I have the paperwork for it if you don't believe me. But so give us a chance, guys.
Yeah,
we did our time, right?
There's a reason there's a reason you're punished. Just like if you had a child and you punish them for what they did wrong, you're not going to punish them for the next year for that same thing you punished them, yesterday for. So enough already.
It says PepsiCo and Frito-Lay. I'm going to look into them, because I am building up a list of employers who hire felons. I'm validating the lists that are out there to make sure they're real. So thank you. I will check them out this week. Okay. Any last words?
If you do start a business, any of you returning citizens, hire the people getting out.
Very good. All right. Well, Bonnie, I want to thank you so much. And, you come on and we'll do this again and all. And, hey, tomorrow, guys, I got the director of a federal halfway house live in the office, in my office at Wings for Life. You can ask him anything you want to ask him about a federal halfway house. He was on the show last year. He's doing it again tomorrow. Okay, so that's at 2:00 Mountain Time. But, you can always catch the show after. Don't miss that. And Bonnie, once again, thank you for coming on. And we'll be talking, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thanks. I'm going to hit the button. There we go. And